which is on House Bill 3022. And we have a couple of colleagues who are joining us. Thank you for, we know you sat through a lot of testimony. I hope it was as entertaining to you as it was to us.
It's a lot more fun than the healthcare committee.
We are, yeah. Hang out anytime. We welcome you. So we have Representative Deal and Representative Owens, and start us out in whatever order you prefer.
Right, thank you. Chair Marsh, Vice Chairs Levy, and committee members. My name is Ed Deal, State Representative for House District 17, East Salem through the majestic Santiam Canyon. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you in support of House Bill 3022. House Bill 3022 prohibits the Environmental Quality Commission and the DEQ from adopting or enforcing any motor vehicle, fuel, or emission standards that exceed what is required by the Federal Clean Air Act, unless and until the legislature votes to authorize it by law. This bill does not change any existing statute governing the DEQ. It doesn't require any substantial change to the current process of adopting rules and standards. It simply requires that any motor vehicle fuel or emission rules or standards that exceed the federal clean air standards must be enacted into law by the legislature before they can be adopted and enforced. So why is this bill important to Oregon? Recently, the DEQ adopted the Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulation, which among other things mandates that 100% of all new light-duty vehicles sold in Oregon must be ZEV, zero-emission vehicles, by 2035. This effectively bans the sale of gas and diesel-powered cars, minivans, sport utility vehicles, and mini truck models. All told, this bans the new sale of the very types of vehicles that the vast majority of Oregonians depend on for transportation. This includes traveling to and from work, to school, on vacation over the Cascades, accessing backwoods hiking and hunting spots. It impacts those traveling in the cities and in the most remote areas of our state. This regulation infringes on the personal lives of Oregonians in a way that was never envisioned when the statutes governing the DEQ were written. Simply put, this recent regulation does not reflect the wishes of many people in this state. I heard it a lot. The people expect that something of this magnitude be enacted by their representatives and not by a small set of unelected administrators that do not reflect their values or interests. This is an extreme overreach in rulemaking and goes well beyond what is expected from an administrative agency. Opponents to this bill will say that this issue is too important, too consequential to leave in the hands of the people. My response is yes, this issue is important, it is consequential, and that is exactly why it belongs in the hands of the people. I ask that you support House Bill 3022 to assure that Oregon voters are represented in these very important decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Chair Marsh. Vice Chairs Levy squared. Hope that's appropriate. Members of the committee.
We're just waiting for that. Yeah.
Bear with me on this testimony, because I read some opposition that was posted online at noon. I've had almost 4.5 hours to work through it. But I'm going to start with the last paragraph of some opposition. HB 3022 that are designed to increase drought, wildfire risk, and extreme weather events, and destroy rural Oregon. If members of the Climate, Energy, and Environment Committee genuinely care about our climate, energy, and environment, this proposal will receive 0 votes. Its proposers should be embarrassed at the abject obscenity of the concepts embroiled in this bill. That's not what this bill's about. Some of you know me, some of you are getting to know me. My job as, for the record, did I say that? For the record, Mark Owens, House District State Representative. My job as a representative is to be the voice of my community, to bring my community's values, concerns to these conversations. I'm open-minded. I also try to push my community into accepting new ideas, new philosophies. I support renewable energies. I've been working with one of my colleagues here on drought, water sustainability. I support all those. So I do take offense to those comments that were done. My communities are struggling with some of the rulemaking that has come about. My communities are going to struggle with some more rulemaking that's coming. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about renewable diesel. Let's talk about B20 diesel. Let's talk about some things, if they don't make it through this building, that some of these agencies might take rulemaking upon. Renewable diesel has one paraffin. Its freeze point is quite a bit higher than normal diesel. They haven't figured out how to keep that freeze point from coming down. So if that's mandated by rule to go of all of Eastern Oregon, come out to Harney County in January. You know why? All my tractors and all of our diesel vehicles are going to be gelled up. They don't have the additives to do it. Let's talk about B20. Let's talk about equipment in B20. The definitions that are in equipment on B20 can't handle it. Our equipment dealers won't know how to do it. I am supposed to bring those conversations on important policy like this. I can go on. We have somebody that's going to testify that knows this stuff better than me.
We have two invited testifiers. Yeah.
Chair, thank you for having this hearing. Probably doesn't have legs, but I want to appreciate the representative for trying to be the voice of his community also.
Thank you, representatives. I think it's definitely important that we air these issues. We know that they've raised some ruckus out there. Appreciate you bringing it forward. Okay, colleagues, we have two invited witnesses, and I'd like to finish them, and then we'll continue this hearing with everybody else who has signed up so that they don't have to re-sign up to next Monday. And if that's all right with all of you. And invited witnesses,
I have to go.
Okay. Together, if you can do about no more than 6 minutes, that would be great. So we have Craig Nee here and Eric Fruits. Okay.
Hello. This afternoon, I'm going to make testimony in favor of House Bill 3022. My name is Craig Neer, and I run a bulk fuel, propane, and petroleum plant here in Burns, Oregon, that is in Harney County. Today's comments are those of my own, and they may not necessarily be a direct representation of my company. But being from Southeast Oregon and Harney County, I'm able to experience a lot different climate than many other parts of Oregon. In addition, because of my career in the fuel and propane industry for over 10 years now, I possess more knowledge than a lot of other citizens in my community, and I speak today very qualified on behalf of fuel and emission related topics. One such example will be the standard in winter months of diesel fuel and what that standard has to meet to be able to be operable in cold climates like in Harney County. A fuel standard in Harney County in December represents a much lower cold filter plugging point than is needed than for say on the I-5 corridor. Moreover, if fuel is not manufactured within certain limits, no amounts of chemicals or blending is going to improve this fuel to a point and allows a rancher to start, run his tractor and feed his cattle. California has a fuel criteria based on carbon standards, and this fuel becomes completely inoperable in temperatures around 0 degrees. To use this fuel in Harney County, it would have been 25 degrees from being able to work. Morning temperatures in Harney County this December and November were as low as -25. So the standards, based on only improving air quality and CO2 emission values are not a complete and wholesome look at all factors involved in protecting our environment. Many standards aimed to reduce a carbon footprint may actually increase energy inputs, increase land use, or make a standard in which a vehicle is not recommended or manufactured to be used for. Diesel exhaust fluid, for example, may increase the emission standards of a Class 8 truck. However, we've created a completely new supply chain. We've created the need for more trucks to haul a new product, packaging, manufacturing, storage, and transporting. Do the inputs exceed the outputs? Do the additional resources in one sector outweigh the improvements that we make in another? And what are the costs that are then transferred to the consumer? And many of these questions are not being asked or honestly answered in the conversation about zero emission vehicles. By prohibiting the EQC and the DEQ from adopting or enforcing rules or standards unless authorized by legislative assembly by law, we can stop one sole agency from making decisions that affect whole operations. Although the intention of these organizations are for a virtuous cause, the unintended consequences are far-reaching and do not take into effect differences in regions, climates, communities, and livelihoods. Representation from our elected officials is paramount of verdicts being made. Representation from our geographical places, from our elected officials that know where we live and are part of our communities is required for judgments. Not unelected officials that are only meeting a divisional agenda or assembling a required goal from only one viewpoint. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you sat through a lot of other hearings, so I appreciate your being here. Eric
bet.
Fruits, you will be our last speaker today.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Chair Marsh, Vice Chairs Levy and Levy, committee members. My name is Eric Fruits. I'm the Research Director at Cascade Policy Institute. Thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 3002. But this bill is much more about the Environmental Quality Commission's decision to ban the sale of internal combustion cars by 2035. This bill is about whether Oregon should continue to outsource major policymaking to unelected California bureaucrats. You may recall in 2006, the EQC approved permanent rules to adopt California's emission standards. Under this policy, whatever California does with its standards, Oregon must follow. That's why after the California Air Resources Board approved its ban last summer, the EQC followed suit in December with its near copycat rules. The EQC and the California Air Resources Board are not elected, but appointed by the governor. These unelected bureaucrats impose a massive policy change without any input from elected representatives. Even worse, Oregon's rules were effectively written by California's unelected bureaucrats. As legislators, you should be outraged by this. You are the legislative body of the state, and you should play a critical, if not the critical role in setting state policy. As voters, we should be outraged at this too. We don't elect the EQC, and we have zero say in California's bureaucracy. In fact, our testimony even means nothing. For example, for the December EQC meeting to vote on the ban, the DEQ responded with more than 500 comments from people. Every single criticism of the proposal was dismissed by DEQ because they say federal law says that if the state wants to adopt California standards instead of the EPA standards, they must be adopted without any changes. This turned the public comment process into mere theater, if not a downright sham. But there is hope. House Bill 3022 requires that the legislature must approve any rules related to motor vehicle fuels or emissions. It's time to bring policymaking back to you, the Oregon legislature, and HB 3022 is a good first step. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I know you too sat through a lot of other testimonies, so appreciate your sticking it out.